It's time for Recipe of the Day. With Christmas just around the corner, it is a great time for me to explain how to roast a pork shoulder or a pork picnic, kind of like half the shoulder. I know there is some confusion about the difference between the pork shoulder and the pork butt because technically they both come from a similar part of the animal. However, they are a little bit different. The pork butt tends to be a little bit like fattier and it's not like worked as much, that muscle, so it's a little bit more tender. On the other hand, the shoulder or the picnic shoulder, it is worked a little bit more, it's a little bit more sinewy, and it is usually sold bone in and with the skin on. So it's a little bit harder to like carve and cut. Like if you're going to make some kind of pork stew, you want to get the pork butt boneless one and like cut that into pieces. Also, if you want really nice slices of your roast that are nice and even, the pork butt is going to be better, or a pork loin for a leaner cut. But when it comes to special Christmas dinners, when you want that really crispy skin, the crackling, then you need to do one of these pork picnic shoulders. Okay, let us jump into this. Pork picnic shoulder with nice crispy skin. And the way that I am explaining to do this, you're going to get really, really nice drippings to use in gravy. And I will link to my gravy recipe for you. But as always, if you're looking for these recipes, head to cookthestory.com and use the search bar there. You would search for gravy. If you're not finding it there, it's possible that it's on my other website, The Cookful, TheCookful, and you can search there. But usually they're from Cook the Story. When in doubt, head to cookthestory.com/ROTD. And if you know the date that the episode was, you can look it up there. Okay, we're starting with a bone-in, skin-on pork picnic shoulder. It's going to be 6 to 10 pounds. You're going to take it out of the fridge about an hour before you want to start cooking it. That just takes the chill right off of it. That makes it cook a little bit more evenly and a little bit more quickly too. Now, you're going to preheat the oven to 275 degrees Fahrenheit. That is really low because we are going to do the reverse sear method on this roasted pork, which is going to be a nice low and slow cook, so that the meat is really juicy and tender. And then we're going to blast it with high heat at the end so that that skin, that crackling gets all nice and crispy. Okay, so while that oven is preheating and your pork is coming to sort of a room temperature, an hour at most on the counter, you're going to mix together your seasonings. I'm just doing garlic powder, salt, and pepper. I like to mix them all together first in a bowl, and then I can go from the bowl onto the pork and rub it all over and not worry about like contaminating my salt container or my garlic powder container. I'm just going in and out of that bowl with my fingers that have touched the pork and have touched the seasoning. So rub that all over there, and then you're going to put that pork roast into a large roasting pan, skin side up. You don't need a rack for this recipe at all. Then into that roasting pan, I put about half an inch of no sodium or low sodium chicken broth or chicken stock. And the reason for the no or low sodium here is actually important. That liquid is going to be concentrating down in the bottom of that pan from the heat from the cooking, and we're going to be using that to make our gravy, so we don't want it to have that concentrated salt flavor. So go with the low sodium here. And yeah, so let me just sort of say a little bit more about that. So you're putting that liquid, that broth in the bottom. That is going to allow any drippings that come off the roast to get mixed in with there, and they're not going to burn on the bottom of the pan. That liquid's going to stop them from burning there. And then as you're roasting this, if you notice that that broth has evaporated quite a bit, you're going to add more, but kind of like swish it up the sides a little bit. And then any caramelization of that broth that has happened on the bottom sort of sides of the roasting pan is going to get mixed into that. And you're going to get a really, really nice rich flavor in those drippings at the bottom of your pan. Okay, so that roast is in the roasting pan. It's nice and seasoned. There's some broth in the bottom. It is going into the oven uncovered until the internal temperature is 180 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's going to take 45 to 55 minutes per pound, which sounds like a lot, but it's really going to do that slow cooking, mouth-wateringly tender kind of thing. Now, if you're doing any calculations there, you might realize that if you've got a 6 to 10 pound roast and the range of cooking is 45 to 55 minutes, you have quite a big variability in like when dinner is going to be ready. And so I advise that you let people know that dinner is going to be served within a range of time. You say dinner will be between 5 and 6:30, something like that. And then you don't really get all of your stuff ready until you pull the roast out to rest. So once it hits that 180 degrees Fahrenheit, you're going to take that roast out. You can transfer to a cutting board, and then it is resting for a good 30 minutes, even as much as 45 minutes. You can use that time to make your gravy from those drippings. You can use that time to finish heating up any of your sides. You can do your mashed potatoes in that time. You have 45 minutes, right? That's a big roast. It's going to stay really warm inside for a long time. Also, don't forget, after it's done resting, we are putting it back in to a hot oven. So it's going to rest for 30 to 45 minutes. That's when you make your gravy. You do all your sides, get everything done, and then you preheat the oven to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. I like to put the roast into a new roasting pan at this point, or onto a baking sheet, or you've gotten the drippings out of your roasting pan, give it a little rinse, because when you put that roast into that roasting pan and it goes into the 500 degree Fahrenheit oven, that's really hot. Any like liquid drippings, anything that were on that pan, it's going to burn onto there, and it's going to be really hard to clean. So start with a new pan. You can even put some foil on the bottom, and then you know you're not going to get any kind of burnt stuff that you have to clean later. So that is going into the oven, your pork roast that is rested for 10 to 15 minutes. You might want to rotate it every few minutes, and it's going to get nice and crispy. It's going to puff up a little bit. If any parts start to like brown too much or overly darken, you can just put a little bit of foil over those. You want the whole thing to be nice and crispy. Now, when you pull it out of the oven this time, you are not letting it rest again. The inside is already fully rested. We just kind of reheated the outside. So you can start carving it, pull off chunks of pork, slice it, serve it with the gravy, the mashed potatoes, all the amazing sides that you've made. It is going to be quite the fantastic dinner. So special with all that crackling. I love it. Okay, I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is December 20th of 2024. And if you're not already subscribed to this podcast, what are you waiting for? Do it now. There is a new episode every single day, a new idea for what you can make right now to make your life easier, better, tastier every single day, 7 days a week. And when you subscribe, you get access to over 1,200 episodes. They're all free and you can listen to them all. So go to your favorite podcast app and search for Recipe of the Day. You will find me there. I'm everywhere. Or go to cookthestory.com/ROTD and you'll see the links where you can subscribe across the top. Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all that stuff is there. cookthestory.com/ROTD. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook. And from this podcast, Recipe of the Day, I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.